A worried mother quizzed by police over the disappearance of her 16-year-old son found out about his tragic death over the radio of a squad car. Lisa Edwards from Wigan was discussing a 999 call made earlier that evening when she overheard a message on an officer's two-way radio. An alert came through that her son, David Edwards-Gill, had been hit by a train after making his way to a Halloween fancy dress party. He went missing after being dropped off at the party by his mother and soon afterwards dialed 999 telling the operator saying, "I just feel you know what I mean? I am going to get run over by a train." Mrs. Edwards told the hearing, "I dropped him off at his friend's house at 7:15 p.m. and was due to pick him up at 11 p.m. The last thing he said to me was, 'I love you, Mum. See you later.'" At 8 p.m. that evening, officers attended our address and said the emergency services had received a call from David. They asked if he was okay and asked if anything had upset him that day. I tried to track him with the Find My Friends app on his iPhone, but I was unable to do so. It was then that I overheard on the police radio that a man had been struck by a train. At the time I didn't think it was David. I said to the police that it couldn't be him, that it must be some other poor person. It was then that they confirmed his identity over the radio. I believe that he did intend the consequences of his actions that evening, but he was supported by his family always, and we did everything we could for him. Earlier the inquest heard David was described as a loving son and a friend to many, who was cheeky and had a mischievous sense of humor. He was a keen rugby league player at Wigan St Patrick's and boxed at Lee Amateur Boxing Club, but at school he was diagnosed with learning difficulties. Mrs. Edwards added, "He struggled with many things such as expressing himself and communicating effectively with others. He struggled to understand his feelings and had anger management issues. He often misread situations and saw himself as the victim without any rationale. I believe he had the mental age of a child who was 12. He took events personally. The family were actively involved in his life. Family were very important to him." The teenager was referred to healthcare professional in 2015 after he expressed a wish to take his own life, but appointments with the CAMS team which helps suicidal people proved unsuccessful and his moods worsened. In May 2016 he went missing and was found wandering on the hard shoulder on the M6 motorway and during a family meal the following October he stormed out after inexplicably becoming upset with his aunt who was visiting from Rome. In a separate incident he grabbed his mother by the throat during an argument about him eating too much yogurt and held in police cells overnight. He also falsely claimed on Snapchat he had sold a gun and was a member of a gang and took cannabis and cocaine. Other fantasies he had included him stabbing a girl and alleging that he was involved in various muggings. In one incident he took 6 paracetamol tablets and burned his face with heated headphones in his bedroom. Mrs. Edwards said psychiatrists showed no urgency to admit her son to hospital despite her concerns that he could endanger the safety of others as well as himself. She insisted he wasn't a violent, drug-using gang member and I don't want him to be referred to like that. It was a fantasy and there was no evidence to prove that he ever did those things. It was all in his head. Tests showed David had no traces of cocaine or cannabis in his system when he died. The hearing continues. For confidential support call the Samaritans on 116,123 or visit a local Samaritans branch. See www.samaritans.org for details.
Tell me where the freak's at.